Greetings to you all.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Oh, I was going to tell you who I was, but you know who I am, so that's always good. So, I think I'm going to talk about what's going on right now, and then maybe I'll give a bit of, maybe a little history lesson about things. I know there's much distress and pain with what's happening with some unbalanced individuals who are taking weapons and killing people indiscriminately. And it is very sad for us to see also. And then when these individuals come home, not all of them have come home. Some of them are still on the earth plane to be punished, but some have come home, and the soul, the higher self, is very distressed, but has been unable in some of these circumstances to get them to listen. The one in the West, where so many people were killed at a musical event, he had absolutely, the higher self had absolutely lost control many years before. This man was absolutely focused on earth plane issues, and was actually mentally was sane, but was a personality who was very narcissistic, and only everything that happened had to do with him. And when his businesses started to fail, he was going to get back. Didn't get back at the people who he felt, created issues for him. He was angry at the whole country. He felt it was that he had been robbed of what should have come to him. So then he decided to take it out on innocent, unsuspecting people. So every time this happens, you have someone who has lost their way. This man had lost his way for many years, but had been very fortunate that things went his way. So he was able to stay centered somewhat. But he was a very belligerent person. And then this young man who just went into the club, he absolutely was mentally off. Hit it very well, but had mental issues. And all of a sudden, it was the energies I talked about before can throw you off balance. You have to balance in your own self all the time. Every day start that. Well, he was totally out of balance, and he was going to get back. And he was going to get the college kids. He hated college kids. They had things he didn't have. They had more youth than he had, but he was a very young man. But he was angry, so that is what happened. Now he's come home, and it's very distressing now for his soul energy. And this soul energy now will be resting for quite a while. Because, you know, when you come down to the earth plane and you have a physical body, you still have, the soul has to be in that physical body for it to be alive. There has to be soul energy in a physical body. And if the soul gets shut down by the personality self, which is something that has developed over the years, the ego self, then good things will probably not be happening. I will talk a little bit about the man who's your president now, very briefly. This soul energy has been kept very quiet. The personality has always been larger than life, and he was growing up very pampered, was the favorite son. The other sibling that he had, the male sibling, made his transition by his own hand, which was very sad. But this man had all the attention come to him. The father was really not interested in the daughter, so all of the attention came to him. His mother tried to give attention to all of her children, which is one of the reasons he wasn't as close to her, because he had gotten the idea from the father that he was the golden child, and he has carried that thought with him. Now you see what's happening on this world stage. He's having a lot of difficulty dealing with it. He's getting a lot of criticism worldwide, and he is quite shocked that there are so many people who dislike him so intensely everywhere. So he's struggling with that, but is putting a good face on it. And any time that anything is said to him in the form of a question that he does not like, he loses the very short control on his temper that he has. So this is going to continue for a while. I had said to you before that I see him leaving, and I still do see that happening. I had thought by your Thanksgiving time, which is this month, right?
Right.
And I don't think it's going to be quite that soon. So it could be before the year end. But he's going to be fighting with everybody and some of his own party now who are in office. Some of these people that are in his party, that are in office, have seen some things that they're not able to reconcile with. And so he's going to be getting criticism from his own party, and he doesn't like that. And he's trying to run roughshod over people. But you are in a country of law. And what you should be praying for every day is to the higher self of all of these people who are in office, that they stand their ground and be of integrity. It can be difficult for someone in their position because they have a lot coming at them. But you have some who are very strong in their ideas of what is right. And then you have some who are very strong in their ideas of what is right. And it's like 50 years in the past when women were very subservient. You've got some like that in office too. But what I want to say to you is stay centered in your prayer. These circumstances that are happening, these violent circumstances, those will continue for a while. But I want to tell you there is a light at the end of the tunnel with these things, because it has gotten to the point now where many people who were completely uninterested in anything with the guns being somewhat restricted now feel that way, because it could easily have been their child who was at a party, or a friend who was at a concert. They see these things happening now and know it could be anywhere. So I see this unfolding now where this one organization that has been so powerful with the guns is losing their luster because people can see that there needs to be something done. Some changes need to be made. And so for the first time, you're going to start seeing some legislation now that creep up, creep up, creep up. There's been a very strong idea in this country that everyone should have the right to carry a gun. It's in your Constitution, which was a mistake. But you can see what happens in other countries where they don't have that right and a dictator can take over easier. And that's the fear is in some of these people's minds that they don't want someone taking their guns because of that fear. But that is going to move away. You've got a country now, it looks as if everyone hates everybody, but that's really not the case. There are a lot of very strong ideas, and the people that you hear about are the ones who are doing the shouting. But there are other people who are more neutral about things, and they want something done with these guns because they want, it takes away people's freedoms if they go somewhere and might be shot for no reason. So I see that unfolding now. And so to be patient. I know you've been patient a long time with this. But it's going to shift. It is. There was a shifting with this election, and that will continue. And what's happening too is differences have now gone into your Congress. It's not just white men in their 50s. Now you have females. Women, by just the basis of the gender they carry, are more nurturing because in each woman, the heart of a mother is there, whether she is a mother or not. And so that will soften. You will see the ones that are coming in are very intelligent and have been through a lot to get there. Some of them have been through a lot to get there. And so they can be very pragmatic, but they will also have compassion. And you haven't seen a lot of that with some of the leaders in this Congress. Now, I usually don't talk that much about politics, but this is life unfolding here. And so that's why I wanted to touch on it, because I don't want you to be feeling that there isn't light at the end of the tunnel. There's always light, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and you are the light. And so I want you to keep in your heart compassion and love, and to do your work every morning with prayer, because it makes a difference. And I think we hope that more people now will start to open up and say words of compassion and love in the morning and send that out, because it will make all the difference. Okay, so I'm done with that. Now I want to talk about life, your life, everyone's life that's here. The energies that are moving in to bring in this new age energy. We've talked about how strong they are. I know you've felt how strong they are. And that's what's impacting a lot of these things that are happening now. And you see also what's happening with the earth, that she is doing the best she can to hold it steady, but it's not working very well. And also then you see one natural disaster after another happening. And that's because of these energies. Now, this whole thing with these new energies moving in, this was set in motion millennia ago, when we were all working on these, on how things would unfold. That is why this is happening. It's not something that any of us can stop, because we set it in motion many, many years ago. And you all knew before you came down here this time what you were coming into. You knew that these new energies would be coming in. You knew you would be dealing with them. And that was one of the reasons you came in this lifetime, was to be a part of this process of bringing this new age energy in. When the new age energy is in, and it's started, and it will take quite a while before it's completely solidly in. But that energy will move away from I to we. Because as this comes in, there are going to be many changes, and you have people now, the younger ones who've come in, and that's the reason they're here. They are not, a lot of them, into material goods. They've grown up with these commercials, and they've learned to discount much what is said. And so they're more into having an experience, doing something, interacting with life. They don't, the thing they have a problem with is their communication skills, though, because it's more difficult for them to talk face to face than it is for any of you, because this is what you've grown up with. So you know to communicate, to look at someone's face, to look at their eyes. They are used to communicating this way, and so it's more difficult for them as far as communication skills go. But they have thought processes about being part of things, about connecting with the earth, about being out in nature and connecting that way. So that's a very good thing. And some of these new millennials, youngsters that you talk about, they have come from American Indian lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And they have brought that energy with them about revering the earth. And some of them, even very, very young, teeny little ones, have always looked at the earth as their mother. And some of that, of course, has been pushed out by growing up and the parents. But it's coming back to them, and they value that. So some of these youngsters who were the American Indian had a previous American Indian lifetime before they came into this one. They have valued the earth. They have looked at the earth as their mother, and they are the ones who are working in the movement to protect the earth. A lot has to be done to protect the earth. I'm hearing things from your scientists that you're getting near doomsday where it's not going to happen. Well, the shift is going to happen, and that will cleanse everything. But it's not as doomsday as they say. But the things that have happened on the earth plane, they're impacting these babies that come in with the breathing, and you know now there are more children coming in where the brain's not exactly right. Well, that is due to the foods. The mothers can only eat the foods that are available here, and even if they're careful, it can be more difficult. And that is what's happening mentally to some of these youngsters who are not getting the proper nutrition when they're in the womb, and then they have these issues as they are born. Now, they're not necessarily karmic. They knew there was a possibility, but they want this lifetime so strongly they come anyway. And so some of them will be able to overcome that, and it will be for them a good centering process. It will teach them more compassion, and they will be able to overcome that so that they can work in the mainstream. But they will be, changes are going to be made as this goes on in these companies, in the way things are done. And it will be beneficial for the earth itself. It might be a little more difficult for people in different areas to deal with. These floods, these things that are happening all over the world, those are going to continue. You can't have the energy be misused the way it has been on the earth plane and not have a price to pay. That's just what's happening. Do I want to go any further with this? No. I want to stop here with this and let you digest it, because I think it's kind of heavy what I said. But at the same time, I want you to go out every day, each one of you, and find some joy each day. Because when you are expressing that to the world, it goes out in waves. Okay, I think I'll take some questions. I know Becky has some good ones, Geraldine said.
I wanted to know more about what started the California fires that are going on, and is that part of the shift?
It's not part of the shift. Well, it is in the fact that the weathers have been impacted. They haven't had any rain, and then the winds, but they have winds this time of year. So this is normal. Part of this is human incompetence caused one of these fires. It was just really stupid. So that's what's going on there. Is it part of the shift? Well, the energy is creating this. So I guess you could say it is, but that's not actually the main thing there. The main thing is stupidity on someone's part who was careless and has created this havoc for people. Okay.
Well, I've got quite a
I
few.
know. I'm interested to hear what
Okay,
these
well,
are.
one of the one I want to talk about goes back to the comment about how you were sharing how women are coming into, which is exciting. And I'm going to be speaking to a group of women about, really paying attention, to their best self. But one of the things that was brought up was how women are very cruel to one another, and how in the workforce women don't trust women, and how in the workforce they'd rather work for a man than a woman. And that saddens me. I think also the threat when you come in and you've worked hard and there's not many positions for women in a company, and another woman comes in and there's a threat. And what I want to find out from it is, are women predisposed to behaving negatively towards one another because of this, the evolution of the female species within history?
Interesting. No, part of this is, if you go back hundreds and thousands of years, there were societies where women were the leaders, and those went very well. But also, as time went on, it was strength that was needed, which is what put the male in the position of authority. And then you have, there was a competitiveness that was born 500 or 600 years ago even, where a woman was not permitted to work as a man could, and so they had to make marriages. And this was set up by men. And also, the churches had a lot to do with it. The Catholic Church had a lot to do with it. And even other churches like the Hindus and all these different organizations were headed by men. So guess who was going to be in charge? And that's what started that competitiveness. And that's in the race mind, Becky. That's in the race mind. Now you have women, though, who are coming in who were male in a previous lifetime and have come into this lifetime as females and are enjoying this whole aspect of being females, of being able to be the nurturer, the mother. And you're going to see some of that hostility of women to women moving away. You don't see it with women who are secure in their own self. You see it in women who are insecure, who perhaps have always heard they are not attractive, or this person is more attractive, or they're the smart one. And so it's the ones that's happening with are very insecure, and it's their own problem. It's not across the board. You will find some women like that. You will find other women who like to work with women, who work in a management style, who feel comfortable in themselves, and they're not afraid to spread the wealth. For to give where it's due, to give compliments, to promote women within women. There's more of this than you think, where you see women connecting with women. The ones who don't do it are the ones who are insecure, and they are used to being able to play against a man. They think that will help them, but it really doesn't work that much anymore. That's something from about 40, 50 years ago when that worked. But you still have some people like that. You still have some of these same ideas floating around.
Well, I would think especially with men and women who are frightened right now of all the changes and want things to go backwards because they think there's safety in that.
And there isn't.
So women as leaders are powerful.
Yes, because
and compassionate and
yes, because in it, you see, the new age is coming, right? Well, who's going to birth the new age?
The women.
Women. Women. That's why you see this movement.
And so what are some ways that, as women, we can support and ease that process in for ourselves and others? Make it easier. What are some suggestions to make this shifting for women easier?
Oh, okay. On an individual basis, I would think it would be no different than anything you've done before. To stay focused in your own truth and to try and look at each other without judgment. And that's very difficult because from the time you're born into an earth body, you're taught judgment. It's all about judgment. And so if you can try and move out of the space of judgment, that will help a lot. But the important thing is, in any circumstance, is to have your boundaries set with everyone. And especially women have problems staying, especially women who are interested in spirit, who have religious, spiritual lives, have trouble setting boundaries. And so the important thing I want to stress is you all have your rights to set your boundaries and to stay focused in that whole idea of being a light bearer, because each of you are. So, does that answer that question? Because I don't know. I have to see individually how you step out, you know? And so, there are women who have been the standard bearers,
Right.
who've had a lot of abuse put at them, but they've moved through that and now they're looked at as icons, you know? And so they are good ones to look at because they have stayed true to themselves. They have not come back at other women who are frightened and try to put them down.
Like when somebody comes and takes somebody's job out from underneath them, that type of a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a somewhat related question. How do you get rid of the hurt and fury that seems to be stored in maybe your auric field for all the way women have been treated? You know, yourself individually and personally, and the part that you've participated in with that. Is it just not judging, and actually
Well,
it gets cleared out?
Yeah, some of it is with, if you journal and these things come to you and you write it down and then it's gone, right? You can get rid of it that way. It's an ongoing process from the minute you get up in the morning to stay focused in your truth. And when you're saying your affirmations or if you're doing a prayer, whatever it is, you want to stay, your whole idea for that day is to stay in your truth, to have your boundaries set, but to have love and compassion. Those are the things that you want. But the problem that I have seen in the past is people don't, especially women, they don't set their boundaries. They allow themselves to be used by a lot of different people, and they may not be happy about it, but then they are used to thinking growing up as second-class citizens. So they think that's all there can be. But the truth is, everyone is equal. So if they remember that and use that thought process, then it will help shift that. But it's going to take time. There is water she has. Do you know?
She's getting it.
Oh, thank you.
It's open.
Oh,
So it would be fair to say
did
for
that
women.
answer your, wait, did
Yes.
that answer your
Yes, thank you.
question?
Thank you very much.
I went all around.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, all right.
So it would be fair to say that in many ways, in the workforce, it's kind of like playing a game. I've often see it as a game that people are playing, like a chess game. And that as kids, you know, when you ended up playing a game, if you didn't like it, you went ahead and grabbed a friend and went and played another game. You know, you created something that you enjoyed playing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see oftentimes the same types of roles showing up in business. And I wonder if it was the same philosophy that women don't have, like, you know, because there's certain companies that operate in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that if a woman doesn't want to succeed in that way, she can then turn and create a new game, create
She
her own
has
business.
to know that she can do that.
Yes,
Yes. She has to have faith in her higher self
right.
that she could step out of that. But what happens, you know, is when you get sucked into some of these circumstances, you think this is all there is.
Right.
That's
You
what
know.
guys do. They quit and start something on their own.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to play the game the way you want to play it, and know it's possible. Not from a resentful space, but the realization that this calling is saying, I want to create something more, and this isn't the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's
You see that happening now.
yeah.
The other thing is too, women like my age, there was no competition.
Mm.
There were no competitive games that we ever did. So when you went into when you went into the work, you know, you were always taught that somebody in charge was always better, so you never questioned. So it took many times for me to learn whatever. But, so now it's changing, there's a lot of competition. So girls are taught to play the games that they weren't taught before.
Right.
And that's a big shift.
Well, and you have mothers now, younger mothers, who are telling their children, their daughters, they can do anything.
Yeah.
Whereas,
And I did that with my girls.
yeah,
So,
but,
and it makes a big difference. Well, I was never taught that.
right,
So, and my granddaughters are totally moving.
yeah, and they have more of a freedom than.
They have more freedom than used to.
Mhm.
So it's a process of culture,
Mhm.
you know.
And I think it's a recognition too, that with each generation, you know, we kind of step on the shoulders of the ones that have come before us to help lead the way, to help.
That's what I'm saying, it's
Yes, I
evolution.
love it, that's exactly right, yeah. So,
Can I ask another question? So
Pardon?
how do you tap into each person's individual, like, soul plan? Because I tried a paradigm shift with my son, and in a little bit of a way, I think maybe it failed because I didn't understand him well enough. Like with all this new, like, freedom, you can let people be freer than they are ready to handle.
Well, it's difficult with a parent. That's a hard job, because you have to hit a good balance. And balance is everywhere in life. So with a parent, for each individual person who's a parent has to have in their mind the idea that they can guide, give direction, and then allow them to go and make their own mistakes. And that's really very difficult. And it's difficult to know what the person, the child, has come for.
Yeah, I would love to know that for everybody, because then you
Yeah.
could support them
Yeah,
instead of being in the dark.
but the problem is they may not know it for a
That's the
while.
job.
You know, that's what happens, is they may not know it. You will see some children who come in and they do know.
Mhm.
But I think that's more of a rarity, because you get down here and, you know, when you're on the other side, it's completely different. And then you get down here and all this stuff is coming at you, and it's much more difficult. So, you know, to come down, especially at this time period, when all these shifts are making, it requires a bit of courage. Definitely does. But the rewards, as far as being able to serve, to be of service, and to work through karma, are great right now, because it's very difficult. Did that answer your question or
Yeah,
not?
I did.
Probably, that's a hard one, because everyone is unique and everyone has their own path, but some people never walk their path. You know, some people get very caught up in things, and the soul energy is not able to really get them to listen and to accept and to move on the path that was the choice, the soul choice, when they came down here.
Okay, thank you.
Some of these things, I realize that I'm not giving you a definitive answer. And I think the reason it's difficult to do that is because with each individual, they have a unique purpose. And unless I am connected with that individual and they're willing to let me speak to them about it, it's difficult, because I have to use generalizations.
Right.
Because what I do is what a parent does. I want to present something to you, but then you decide if it's what you want to do and use. So I can be a parent. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on?
Sure.
If I answered that correctly.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions?
Go ahead.
All right. Is there such is the Elohim real?
Is what?
It's called, they call it down here the Elohim.
What?
Yeah, Elohim.
What is
E-L-O,
H-I-M. The Elohim.
never heard of it.
What is it
It's
supposed
like
to
part
be?
of the host of heavens, you know, archangels and Elohim. I don't know, you know.
I've never heard it that way.
You've never heard of Elohim?
Never heard of it.
No, but I have today.
I grew up with that, but I can't explain what it is.
Okay, but there, let's talk about the other side. It's all energy, it's all pure, and it's level by level by level.
Okay.
There are beings on the other side who have never ever left, who have never taken human form. So is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, because I find myself drawn to this teaching, or not even a teaching, the sharing, and it causes me to go, okay, let me just kind of connect with you on this to validate it. Actually, I mean, they talk about all the archangels, Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron. Is it Metatron? I mean, all these different. Is that a reality? Because I remember listening about Archangel Michael and the sword and all that, and you know, it kind of connected with the vengeful God.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
Michael's been pretty busy.
So he is real.
Yeah, but
Okay,
when they talk about a sword, that came from human.
yes.
He has, he's very evolved. He's never ever been in physical form, but he's very loving, and I've spoken with him before. He is, you know, maybe the way I can describe it is we all have something that we do on the side because we want to have something. So when I want to explain about the levels because I find that I don't want to put out the idea that someone is better than someone else because that's not the case. The case is some of the hierarchy, there is a hierarchy, but it's not as if they are not loving and kind. But here's what happens. Let's say there's somebody on the airplane, and I will pick somebody who's not been a very good person, maybe one of these dictators. And the personality has ruled, the soul has just been shut down completely. Okay, well, they come home because there's no place else for them to go. There's not a hell somewhere with fire and all of that. I don't know who started that, but anyway. So they're going to come home. Well, that soul is not very refined, and it's very, you know, the soul, you judge yourself when you come home. But that soul is not very refined. They have been shut down all this time, and they haven't really been able to do what they came to the earth plane to do. Well, they're not going to be able to move through those levels because you can't. You don't have wings on the earth plane, so you can't fly. Birds can fly. It's the same idea. If you don't have it in the soul, that energy, you're not going to be able to move through those levels. So some of these angels have never ever been on the earth plane, but they've had to stay home to hold things together. They are not unloving. They are not unkind. They do not judge others. In fact, when you come home, you're not judged, you judge. If you go to a Lord of Karma to look at your lifetime, they're not judging you. They're there to help you because they love. So, that's how this works. And I think what's happened is when mankind came down here and they knew inklings of things, maybe a little bit, like Michael, the sword of truth, but they used weapons for people to get an idea, but it's not like there was ever a weapon, or it's not like he was ever judging. The whole energy of home, of God, that we're all God, is non-judgmental. It's loving, it's kind. But, in the same token, you can't go from the very basic level, if you don't have the consciousness, to connect with them. Because it's not like home, where it is here, where you may connect with somebody. You could connect one day with a great saint and not know it, and the next day with somebody who is on a very basic level, right? Well, that doesn't happen here, because if you don't have the consciousness, you can't move through the levels. It's probably more than you ever wanted to know.
No, because it's kind of like the concept of going into a dark room and not having, having blinders on your eyes, and
Right.
you take it off. If the light's too bright, your eyes can't deal with it.
But the potential
Right.
for everyone is to be there, to polish that consciousness, to move through the levels.
Have you ever heard of something? Have you ever
She's
heard?
testing me today.
Well, these. I'm just kind of listening to this, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
when the Constitution was created, I remember you talking about the Constitution actually being divinely orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to something talking about a portal opening up over Pennsylvania. Are you familiar with that?
Oh,
An energy
yes.
portal?
Well, there are different times that energy portals will open all over the earth plane.
And that's what was happening when the Constitution was written. Right.
Yeah, well, that was pretty much, you had a lot of very evolved enlightened souls at that point
Right.
who had come specifically for that reason.
Ah.
So that was, and there was a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on that. And a lot of that came out really very well as a blueprint. There have been different civilizations over the centuries where some of them have been very evolved. Scientifically, even more than you have here. And also there have been some who have been wonderful about using a rule of law that worked for all. And there have been different, and you don't even know about them because they're not in your history books, a lot of them. But so this has all been out there, and some of the ones who were in some of those circumstances were leaders in the ones that worked for a while. Then they came in this country to work with this. But you see, what's happening here now is this is all being tested and shifted.
Okay, all right. And that those portals could be reopening again
Mhm.
in service of...
Well, there's
they are.
yeah, but there's one now that is open. It's in South America,
Okay,
and there can be more than one open at one time.
right. You think there's one opening up in Pennsylvania again?
I don't know, but I do know there's one in Africa
Okay.
that's opening now, because there are things going on there that it really needs some help. And so there's a portal there that's opening, and you have, when these portals are open, then it's a little bit easier for us to be sending healing energy down and love energy down, and that's why the portals are there.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Becky.
Are you sure?
I had a question.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Well, talking about the Constitution and
Mhm.
when it was written and why, is there a possibility it would ever change I mean, can we change it, or is it just gonna stay that way?
Well, that is set, right?
Okay.
And if somebody tries to go in and make changes to a constitutional amendment, I think you're gonna find there's going to be a lot of fireworks about it. That should not happen.
Okay.
Because there are other things, and wasn't there something to a Bill of Rights that was
Yeah.
Yeah,
also
there
written?
is, I can talk to you more, but I'm taking a class, I can tell you later.
Okay.
How it was
You're
all
aware of
done
it.
and why.
Mhm.
I do have a question, but it goes back to what you were very talking in the very beginning, and it's been on my mind is Mr. Bueller, who is doing investigation on certain things that have happened with the election, before the election, and so forth. My question is, will he have findings and will they be shared? And are they coming forth soon? Will he be protected?
Yes, because you have members of both parties who see what is happening, because there are, the things that are gonna come out that are gonna point directly to the president's family and friends who helped get him in office. There are gonna be some things that come out of that that are going to make them look very guilty, and there'll probably be some indictments. So, but the president wasn't involved in that. It was his group, but you know, he had always said to them, do whatever it takes. And so to them, that was stepping beyond the bounds.
Right.
But those things are going to come out. They're trying right now to stop this. Yeah, but you'll see there are members of the Republican Party who don't want that. They don't want that stopped. They want to see what's really there because they don't know. So I think he will be protected, and I think there will be indictments that will come out of that.
Thank you.
Have you, with the millennials and the children coming in, have you heard of something called, you know, I was listening to something, they were talking about the children and the millennials that have come in have connected with them a consciousness code in their DNA that will be activated. Have you ever heard of that? So that they will start to remember who they are and why they have come and what they have brought
Well,
to
that
do.
would be good if that could happen.
Okay.
But you all have that.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
everyone has that when they come in. That is in the soul.
Yeah, but is there something that might be more connected with why you come at a certain time? Like, you know, people are coming at a certain time.
No. Not, and that couldn't be.
Mhm.
It couldn't be. Because it would have to be the same for all. You cannot have, you know, when people are on the earth plane, or, you know, they can't have, everyone comes in with their own gifts, but you can't have, I just don't see how you could have a group who would be the only ones who would have this consciousness that it would trigger when they got here.
Or would be triggered at a certain time for a certain purpose?
I don't think
In
so.
service?
I don't think so, because, well, you would have to hope that nothing, you know, when you get here on the earth plane, these energies impact you. So it would impact them as well.
Right.
Now you have a groups coming forward all the time on the earth plane who will connect with each other, but not necessarily would they have more of a knowledge than anyone else who comes, because
Or like more for the purpose of like helping to bring the I am presence, awareness of the I am presence in? And operating from that?
well, I don't see how that's a possibility,
Okay.
that they would have more of more than someone else.
Okay.
It just can't be.
Okay.
There's one teacher, Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon, and that's a big part of their teaching, that like in the past, people were, like 33% of the DNA was activated, but with the change in energies, that, you know, people are gonna be, more of the DNA is gonna be activated, and some of the masters who walked the plane in the past, they were like 88%. So that's something that's floating around in the teachings.
Well, but, yes, but there are masters on the earth plane right now who, when they got here, knew who they were.
So the teaching's not true, really, because I've been
Well,
wondering, listening to a lot
it's-
of that.
Wait a minute.
No,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute.
Okay.
Let's,
Yeah, sorry.
no, wait.
Yeah.
The thing is, you have souls who come down here all the time. You've got masters on the earth plane right now. You may not know who they are. They might work in your grocery store. Okay? But they live their lives in service. They're kind. You know, they have mastered a certain aspect, okay? To activate DNA, that's an interesting concept, but there are masters on the earth plane right now. And they're, as the time here, let me tell you, when the shift happens and there's a cleansing and you have fewer coming in, the ones who come in will have a specific purpose, and yes, they will remember easier because you won't have all this garbage out here like you have now.
Okay.
Do you see? And so that would make it easier for them to step forward into the space that they came to do. Does that explain that?
Yeah, that makes sense. That it's not DNA, it's just. not-
Well, DNA is part of the
distractions and-
process, but
Yeah.
it's soul that matters. And it's soul that would be activated, and it would make it easier. Here's the thing, when you have less volatile energies on the earth plane, you'll have fewer people. It's easier to have someone listen to that higher self.
Okay.
John will also, when the shift happens, so a lot of the race culture that have been accumulated will be gone. So therefore, they'll be able to do more because a lot of it will shift.
Well, yeah, you have a race consciousness right now,
Right.
and a lot of that will be destroyed.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, that all, to me,
Because
makes
it's
more
gone.
sense of what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because there's a cleansing.
Yeah.
This whole thing is a
DNA.
cleansing. It cleanses the
I thought you could. I thought you
energies.
could shift in that. Well, I don't know. I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
So fifth dimension. Is there something? Is there a fifth dimension?
Mhm.
What is it?
Well, it's above the fourth.
And under the sixth. No, I'm sorry. What?
Well, I mean,
what's
it's
different? What
it's all
defines it?
energy. It's all
Is it?
energy, and it's hard to talk about dimensions for people to understand
Okay.
because you're in a third dimension.
Right.
All right, then the next level up, home, is the fourth dimension.
Okay.
And then there's a dimension even above that, but it's when you're moving the energies.
Right. So is there something called a crystalline type of where is it? I'm pulling it out because these are words I've not, you know. Have you ever heard of a fifth dimensional crystalline solar light body?
What?
A fifth dimensional crystalline solar light body.
I'm thinking about the light beings, which we all are, but I'm not quite sure what would be the crystalline. Let me get some help here. I don't recognize these terms. Oh, okay. Actually, I'm trying to make things simple, and you're going out, but that's okay. Actually, it's all energy, and it has different aspects that are presented.
Okay.
So that's can't be more powerful than there are different galaxies and universes that are, and some of those are in another dimension,
Right.
And that's where you're getting this idea of the
Okay.
crystals.
Gotcha.
So it really won't impact any of you that much. And it's just about all of the galaxies and the universes, which are infinite.
Okay,
Infinite.
okay.
Does that explain that?
And that helps, yes. I mean, it's helping because I mean, like, okay. And just one, and last one, and I'll just let it go there. Is there something called the 12 aspects of deity?
The 12 aspects
12
of that.
aspects of the deity?
Deity?
Yeah, like 12 solar centers or 12 chakra centers and the 12 aspects of the deity.
Huh.
You ever heard of that?
No, I haven't, but eventually there will be a time, which is planned, and we will expect to see it, where life on different planets will be so different that there will be different centers in these bodies, and the bodies will not, they're already different energy life forms on other planets, which are nothing like what you have here. And they have different centers to connect with the own higher self. So,
Will the shifting of this earth cause it to adjust to a different dimension, or will it be in this
No.
third dimension? Okay.
well, no, you'll stay in this dimension because this is a teaching planet. There are
Ah,
other
that makes
planets
sense.
that are teaching planets too that stay in the third dimension.
Okay, cool.
Good questions.
Do you have a question?
I was curious about one other thing, because I don't know if we need to wrap it up or not. Talking about women and the president, his wife Melania, what is her viewpoint about her husband and all that's going on? Or is that, can I even ask that? 'Cause I don't even know.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so
Yes.
is she just going along
yeah.
with it? Or?
Yeah, that connection that she has with him is, okay, I can tell you just this much, that's a karmic connection.
Okay.
And she is more intelligent than she comes across, and she sees a lot, and but she is there to, of the two, she is a higher vibration. And she's there to guide, but she's not able to do too much. So if that explains a little bit without me impeding on her.
Okay.
So do we have more questions?
No,
Becky is
just
really
thank
testing
you.
me too.
I thank you. I mean, because
That's good,
there's
that's
things
good.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot more, but I'm just going to stop it.
Well, yeah, but
Another time.
there's a lot that's out to open you up. You know, some of it is unfolding, some of it is something that has been in the idea but has not come to fruition. So that's what's happening.
And to trust your own inner guidance, right?
Right.
Even when it is very different than what's occurring for someone else or what, but there's just something you that says, I need to trust this.
Well, what's hard, I think, is the way you have to communicate. You have to use words, and on some other planets, they don't do that. It's all mental, and so they have a better understanding, and they're able to flow easier, because you don't have that. You have words, and it can be different. Something can be said and taken differently. It's about perception, and then you have all these different languages, and when they are translated, it can mean something completely different. So that is a problem on the earth plane. But, you know, this is a teaching planet. This is a planet of learning to grow and to fly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to leave you now. Thank you for all your questions. I enjoy these times when I get to stretch as well. And some of these things I had heard of before I had forgotten, so it's good to have the reminder. So don't hesitate to bring me what you think are strange questions, because they're very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.